Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another edition of the Adam Eisen Show. We are going into week 9 of the podcast now, and we are veering into the last month in NFL season. I'm getting excited. The NFL playoffs are right around the corner. College football playoffs are coming up on New Year's Eve, December 31st. So with that being said, let's get into my takes of the week. Week 13 of the NFL season. I know it's been like 6 days now. I was traveling during this week, so wasn't able to get the podcast out on Thursday or Friday, but still wanted to talk a little bit about Week 13, and I'm going to touch on Thursday Night Football some and the catastrophe that took place for the Steelers and Chase Claypool. And the first team I wanted to look at from Week 13 is the Steelers, and I think that's kind of funny considering what happened Thursday night now. Week 13, the Steelers beat the Ravens 20-19. It was an in-division game, and now the Ravens they're super injured. John Harbaugh even recognized that they are not really at the same point that they were at the beginning of this year. The record is great, but they're not the same team. And their past 7 games, Steelers have won 4 of them. And their past 8 now, Steelers have won 4. And they've won those games by a combined 11 points. They're 22nd in yards per game, 22nd in yards allowed per game, 29th in rush yards per game, and 15th in pass yards. That is not at all a good team in the NFL. And it's a weird position the Steelers are in the moment. Mike Tomlin is a great coach, and he's always been a real disciplined coach. And now seeing the stuff that's been happening in the locker room, it's kind of surprising to see. And like dating back with the Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell stuff, he got them straight out of the locker room, got them out of town once a distraction came. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Claypool. But we'll get there. They have a bunch of young stars, TJ Watt, although I don't like either one of them, Claypool and Juju. They have young stars that are on the upcome, and with growth, the Steelers could become contenders if they could get Big Ben out. He has a little bit of fight left. It was impressive seeing him make the comeback on Thursday night against the Vikings. Vikings were absolutely blowing them out, and he was able to slowly edge them back in, and now we know how that game ended. But Big Ben is only averaging 6.4 yards a throw. 7.5 is the target to hit in the NFL. That's what people want their quarterbacks throwing, is 7 yards a throw. And 6.4 is just not good at all. And getting on to Thursday Night Football now, I have never... Chase Claypool, for one, what he did with his celebration, when they got the first down with 30 seconds left, took 5 seconds off, the ball got batted up. But for him to get mad at his teammates, go on to his press conference and defend it, it's ridiculous. It's like each week there is a new distraction for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I'll tell you why this is important. It's because this would never happen with the Patriots. Bill Belichick would never let this happen. Andy Reid would never let this happen. Great coaches, which Mike Tomlin, I consider him a great coach and a well-disciplined coach. But in certain organizations, there is a mentality about winning and presence. These football players are paid millions of dollars to act like professionals, and in a 2-minute situation with the game online, to have your head fully in the game and not be thinking about your celebration. The best example of this is Larry Fitzgerald. You know, he is the master of the 2-minute situation, getting the ball from whoever has it on the field, getting the ball down, and getting the spike. Those couple seconds could have saved the Steelers another play, and they could have had another shot at the end zone. What Claypool did was absolutely ridiculous. While he is a good player, for him to be acting in that selfish way afterwards and not immediately apologize is even worse, and it's just not a good look at all. After week 13, I was wondering, I was like, if the Steelers could sneak in, and I was going to say, there's no way the Steelers could make the playoffs, especially after the stats that I just read to you guys. But after Thursday Night Football, it is a definite. the organization, it's just not going to work. There's too much going on. All these players are coming for each other. First, you have the Claypool, we need to have music and practice. You got old heads coming in saying, no, that's terrible. It's just not a good environment. It's too late in the season, and the Steelers are done. They're not making the playoffs, and they don't have much chance, in my opinion, for this season. I wanted to move over to another AFC team, the Chiefs. I talk about them pretty regularly just because of how interesting they've been this week. And it was, do the Chiefs need Mahomes to be better in order to contend in the postseason? And in my opinion, they 100% do. Mahomes need to dumb it down. Mahomes had that great game against the Raiders, throwing 5 touchdowns. And the reason he did that was because the Raiders didn't play too deep most of the game. What people have been doing to Mahomes is playing too deep, taking away the over the shot, and making Mahomes and the Chiefs drive down the middle and beat them in 10 to 12 play drives, which is hard for them. Defenses are taking away the easy money for Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and the Chiefs. Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, they're making sure they lock them down, and they're saying, Mahomes, beat us some way else. It took a couple years to get here, but now it's starting to happen. His last 5 games, 4 of 5 of them, passer rating has been under 75. And if you go back to what the coaches said about Mahomes coming out of college, his draft report, if you go to his draft report, it reads, remarkably high ceiling, really hard to coach, and doesn't have a repeatable passing motion. While the left-hand passes and the parallel passes to the ground are great, I am blown away by Mahomes. I'm not taking away any respect I have for Mahomes, but when you look at Brady, Rodgers, Breeze, Montana, all these legendary quarterbacks, they have repeatable passing motions that drive them down the field, and they're able to get you over the middle with the deep plays that are just going to drive a knife into your heart and feel like you don't have any life left. And they can drive down the field 10 to 12 plays and 9 minutes, 11 minutes, and beat you that way too. And that's what Mahomes is going to need to start doing. Last game, Week 13, 15 for 29, 184 yards, and an interception. They were able to win the game, but they're not going to compete in the playoffs with him playing like that. You see Tom Brady doing this kind of stuff all the time. He's got to dumb it down a little bit. He's got to realize where he is. Each year is different, and you're going to have to grow as a player each year, and that's what Mahomes needs to do this year. He needs to be boring. He needs to go back to the basics and show. Mahomes can make the checkdowns. It's not like Mahomes can't drive down the field in 10 to 12 plays. It's just they need to stop looking for these flashy, over-the-top, easy money plays, because that is not going to happen in the playoffs, and especially not in the Super Bowl if you're going up against a team like Tampa Bay again. Team in Week 13 that finally got their first W. I also wanted to touch on a little bit, the Detroit Lions. I said it a couple times with my bets. The lines on the Lions were always usually pretty good, but I was so hesitant to bet on the Lions. Minnesota is a plenty good team. We saw them come out. They went up 29-0 on the Steelers. They went crazy on the Steelers. And Big Ben almost had a great comeback, but Minnesota's what knows what they're doing. They have plenty of playmakers, and they can win a football game for sure against almost any team in the NFL. But I refuse to bet against the Lions because they're not. Every team in the NFL, it's different from college because all these players are the best they could be. There is no one on planet Earth that is better at football than these players are. So it's not like that you have any bad players on the field. It's just sometimes it's coaching, sometimes it's chemistry, stuff like that. And the Lions just don't have as many great players as other teams. But Dan Campbell has kept them battling all year and won't lose emotion for them. And for that reason, I think he deserves another chance next year. I don't think Dan Campbell should get fired. He loves the team too much, and they're really trying. You could tell in that embrace they had in the locker room, and then Jared Goff and Dan Campbell on the field, they all really love for each other. They've been trying their asses off and trying to get just at least one win. You saw how happy they were. I don't know if this could carry over, actually, but they're at the Broncos this week. The line on that point, I think it's set around 6 or 7. It's fair, right around the middle. Going to be an interesting game. I think the Lions are going to keep this close. I don't know if they pull it out. Even though they're in the NFC North, I know the Lions don't have any chance for the playoffs or anything. So I would just love to see the Lions and Detroit fans get another win. Transitioning over to another team in the NFC North, my team, the Packers. They had their bye week this week. So now we're coming out. Sunday Night Football's tomorrow night. Chicago Bears at the Green Bay Packers. It's hopefully going to be a big week. Rodgers was back at practice for the first time in like 4 or 5 weeks now. It's been a while. So people are going to be healthy. Jair Alexander's coming back, hopefully. Don't know it for sure, but Jair practiced for 3 straight days this week. Zadarius Smith and David Bakhtiari are still questionable. I don't think we see David Bakhtiari this week, but Zadarius Smith I do think comes back and is going to be able to play. At least I really hope so. As much time as we have those guys for and get chemistry going, everybody's getting cycled in. Packers are going to be a scary team. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm going to give more of a reaction next week after this game. I just don't have a lot to say about the Packers this week. They do have the biggest line of the week with the Bears. I believe it's 12.5 at this point. I think it's a little big, especially with Justin Fields coming back. All this I own you stuff, there's been a lot of recirculation of Rodgers saying, I still own you to the Bears, all that. I think that could come back to bite us in the butt a little bit, to be honest. I don't know how. It'd be hard for me to see the Packers losing. Granted, any given Sunday, especially an in-division game on primetime. But it's been circling a lot. I wouldn't be surprised to see that come and bite us in the butt again. Not again, but somehow. I want to talk about Mr. Tua as well. I talked about him last week a little bit, but he has put up another another great performance. He has now 4 straight games of 100+ completion percentage. No other QB has 2 straight. The Dolphins went 1-7 to 6-7, and there's not really a part of this team that's overly elite. Their defense is good. It's not overly elite. And none of their stats are real good. But they keep finding ways to win football games. It's very impressive. And people are still hating on Tua slightly, which I'm upset about. He makes the right decisions. You can win football games with Tua. Quarterback is a big, big thing in the NFL. But if you have a good quarterback, you can win. Remember, I know it was Peyton Manning, but Peyton Manning threw 19 interceptions in 7 or 8 games the year they won the Super Bowl. Winning the Super Bowl, all he had to do was be a game manager. The Dolphins have that type of defense. All Tua has to do is be a game manager. If they keep buffing up that defense and just get to a couple other weapons, they would need an absolute ton to make the playoffs right now. But I'm sticking with my thing. They really do not need to go after Deshaun in this offseason. Tua has 3 interceptions over the last 5 games. He's playing better than many other quarterbacks that are around his age group. Granted, you have to look at what these quarterbacks can become and their potential. And other quarterbacks' potential, I think, are much higher than Tua's is. But they've been so close for years now. The Ryan Fitzpatrick thing messed up. Brian Flores, if they miss the playoffs this year, it's now 3 times that he has not made it to the playoffs. He's been close all the times. I think they give Brian Flores another year, and that's where the question is going to come in with Tua. It's kind of going to be like Brian Flores and his whole staff and the GM, everybody, they're going to have their jobs on the line. And do they want to risk their jobs year 4 on Tua, or do they want to risk them on Deshaun Watson? While that's an interesting case, I still, for a football organization to trade away as much as you're going to have to for Deshaun, with the point you're at right now, sitting at 6-7, your team having confidence, and seems media and a bunch of things have changed around the Dolphins. To do that, it's kind of just taking another restart on your team, it seems. And you also have no idea where Deshaun's going to be after this season. Another team from the AFC, sticking in the division of the AFC East. I want to jump up a spot. We're going to be looking at Bills, and then up another spot, the Patriots. How concerned should we be for the Bills? In my opinion, I don't think we should be very concerned at all. They're traveling to the Bucs this weekend, and we'll get to my picks in a minute, but I'm going to be picking the Bills on the spread. We'll get to that. They're 1-4 currently against teams with a winning record, but if you like the Patriots game, their stats, the Bills' stats are ridiculous for this year compared to others in the NFL. And they're sitting at the 7th spot in the AFC at 7-5 in a wild card. They're 2 games behind the Pats. It does not look like they're going to win the division. And the stats are looking different from the first 6 weeks, but they were just in the AFC Championship game is what I'm trying to say. It's all the same players. It's all the same mentalities. They have this chip on their shoulder. I really think all the Bills need to do is make the playoffs, and I think this run for them is going to start this week against the Bucs. They're getting ripped by the national media right now, and I don't think it's going to matter. That's just going to keep adding on to them. Stephon Diggs is a type guy who likes chips on his shoulder. Josh Allen likes chips on his shoulder. That whole team from Buffalo. Buffalo's just the type of hard-nosed city. The Bills can take this. I have a lot of faith in the Bills. They just have the Bucs and the Pats left as the real tough matchups. I see them winning one or the other of those. I think if they played the Pats with okay weather, they would have definitely beaten them. So the Bills will end up with 11 to 12 wins overall. And you guys got to remember, in the weather, the better, more flashy offense is affected more. The one that throws more and does all this stuff, they're affected a lot more than teams like the Patriots with Bill Belichick over on the sideline dancing a little jig when he walked out and realized what the weather was going to be like, because he was able to only throw the ball 3 times. What Belichick did against the Bills was great. It was one of my favorite. It was kind of not necessarily a boring game, but I was so excited the whole time. Like, all 3 throws Mac Jones did, I was like, oh my God, there's throw 1. Oh my gosh, there's throw 2. It was kind of fun to watch, and it made the game more interesting. What you guys got to remember about Belichick is he's also the GM. He's prepared. He knows the type of games that they're going to be playing in. And Belichick remains supreme in changing his complete game plan week in and week out. And it really makes me think this team could be a Super Bowl team. They're battle-tested. Wow, I just said the Bills would have beaten the Pats if it wasn't for the weather. But guess what? The weather was there. And if the Pats have the number 1 seed, the weather's going to be there in New England and helping Mac Jones. Mac Jones does not like the cold as much, but Bill Belichick is prepared for this. They've drafted extremely well. They have great running backs. And I've not been wanting to say this, but Mac is kind of like the young Brady. He's acting just like him. You can't compare him to Tom Brady, but he's acting like the young Brady. How he acts in the press conference. He is a New England guy. He doesn't make dumb mistakes. He's mature. He's accurate. Makes great decisions in the pocket. And he doesn't have to wear a cape for the Patriots to go win a football game. In Mac Jones' last 6 games, he is the highest passer rating in the league. He understands his role and plays his role so great. And Belichick definitely deserves Coach of the Year. Cliff Kingsbury was talking about it. I want it to go to Matt LaFleur. Matt LaFleur is not going to get it. Bill Belichick definitely deserves it. Same way, it's like every year, Belichick could get Coach of the Year and Brady could get MVP, but that doesn't happen every year, obviously. You can't let that happen every year. Last team I want to talk, got a couple teams left. One of the teams I want to talk about left, Seahawks. My thing with the Seahawks is, you gotta get it right, and you can't be obsessed with being right. And that seems to be where Pete Carroll is at the moment. Bill Belichick and Nick Saban are the best at it, at adapting and changing the way they do things. At 70 years old, they can both go another 10 years and be changing minds in this league and still be competing. But Pete Carroll is doubling down on being wrong. He's defending the Jamal Adams trade for one. And for the Jamal Adams trade, they gave up 2 firsts, a third, and another safety. And he has no sacks this year, even though he's known as Blitz Boy. Only a couple interceptions. Pete was talking so high about Jamal Adams when I don't think Jamal Adams deserves that credit at all. Pete saw his defense slipping away in front of his eyes, and instead of planning for the future, couldn't stand that and pulled the trigger on something like this Jamal Adams trade, and it kind of just shot them and his career with the Seahawks. He's had a 10 to 12 year career now, and I think it's kind of coming to a natural end. I hope the Seahawks are able to keep Russell Wilson. If they aren't, they're going to be really bad this next year. Their defense now is sitting at 31st. Before they got Jamal Adams last year, their defense was 22nd. Since Jamal Adams, they're 31st. So while Pete Carroll can't come out and say Jamal Adams wasn't a great thing, to be as praising and like, oh, he's been this great, he's doubling down on being wrong, and he can't change. Bill Belichick and Nick Saban are the best at changing. That's why they're still winning. Andy Reid, very old. He's been changing for years. With the Eagles, he was keeping his same system. Then the last couple of years, he needed to start changing. Didn't get changed in time. Got fired. Went around. Now he's at the Chiefs. Different kind of coach. You have to evolve with this league. The NFL is always evolving, and coaches have to be able to evolve with it. Next thing I want to look at today, I'm going to take a look at the NFC and AFC playoff picture and where I think it's all going to end up. I like where a lot of this stuff is sitting right now, and I think it's a pretty accurate reflection of the teams and the teams that deserve to be in the playoffs come the end of the season. The only thing I have to change is a couple of the places where the teams have to be. In the AFC, I think the Patriots are going to end up with the 1 seed. They're sitting with the 1 seed right now. They still have their bye week, which is this week, and they're going to come out hot, ready to go. And if they end up with this 1 seed, like I said earlier, it is going to be scary for the rest of the league. The next team I got is the Chiefs. The Chiefs are currently sitting in the 3 spot, and I think they are going to jump the Titans into the 2 spot. The Titans right now are sitting very banged up and not looking like the same team they looked like a couple weeks ago. For that reason, I think they're going to be taking the 3 spot, and right behind them, a team that's even more banged up, the Ravens, is going to take the 4 spot. And the 5 spot, the Chargers, they just had a win over the Bengals. They almost blew it there in the final quarter or so, but they were able to clutch it out. They're sitting at 7 wins. I'm feeling good about them. The Bills, like I was talking about earlier, they're currently sitting in the 7th seed. I see them ending up with 11 or 12 wins, and I think that's going to be good enough for either the 5 or the 6 spot. I have them at the 6 spot in the moment, but I think Chargers and Bills could flip really easily. And in the 7th spot, I hope the Bengals are able to squeeze in there. Joe Burrow is really banged up. That whole team is just banged up. But I hope that Bengals are able to get in there. Just for Cincinnati as a whole, it'd be good for them to get in. In the NFC, the Packers are coming off the bye week. I think they're going to end up getting the 1 seed. The Cardinals, while they're half a game up right now, they have a tough rest of their schedule. They still got to play the Rams, Colts, Cowboys. And while the Seahawks are dismantled a little bit, it's still the Seahawks. It's still an end division game, and the Seahawks. I think the Cardinals take 2 seed, Tampa Bay 3 seed, Dallas 4, Rams 5, and then I have the football team jumping up to 6, and the 49ers getting the 7th seed. There's a bunch of teams in the AFC, NFC that could jump in and get it. There's teams sitting with 4 wins that could technically jump up and get in. But I like the 49ers and the football team. I think they're the 2 best wildcard teams other than the Rams. But I'm kind of just grouping the Rams in there with those other 5. For the 6 and the 7 seed, I think they're the 2 best 6 and 7 seeds available in the NFC and will make for the best playoff football. So for that reason, I hope they get in. The last NFL topic I wanted to look at today was Gardner Minshew, which this past weekend, week 13, he had a pretty good week. He was able to start for the Eagles. It was his first start since last year with Jacksonville. And I wanted to kind of highlight him a little bit. Everybody's like, that people put out good stats on him, but they're just like, oh yeah, he shouldn't start. But I don't understand why he shouldn't start. He's better than 6, 8, maybe 10 other quarterbacks in this league. Since 2019, his touchdown to interception ratio is 3.36. That's 5th best in the NFL. He's got 37 touchdowns and 11 interceptions. Versus the Jets this past week, he went 20 for 25, 250 yards and 2 touchdowns. 133.7 rating all time for him. That's higher than Hurts has ever, or 133.7 last game. That's higher than Hurts has ever been. People seem to have forgotten about it. He was the good part in Jacksonville. Jacksonville had to get rid of him because this generational talent like Trevor Lawrence was coming in. But he's a very, very high football IQ guy. He's accurate. And compared to Jalen Hurts, he is better in almost every category. And you can actually trust him to throw the ball. Jalen Hurts and him have basically the exact same amount of games. Jalen Hurts has 2 more. And in 2 more games, Jalen Hurts has 2 less wins, 5 less starts, a much lower pass completions, passing attempts, completion percentage, passing yards, touchdown passes, touchdown percentage. Jalen Hurts is worse in every single category compared to Gardner Minshew. But you're looking at more an upside and all that. Jalen Hurts is their guy. Gardner Minshew can be someone's guy. You're telling me Gardner Minshew isn't better than Mike Glennon or some of these guys like Jets, Giants. Gardner Minshew can be a starter quarterback somewhere. And I just think it's kind of silly that he's not. He's better than at least 7 others in this league, and he deserves another chance somewhere else. The last topic I'm going to get into before I make my picks for the week is going to be the college football playoffs. They recently came out with the rankings this past week. College football playoffs are scheduled for December 31st, New Year's Eve. I'm very excited for them. We got Bama 1, Michigan 2, Georgia 3, and Cincinnati 4. And college football is really interesting for me because it's so much different than NFL. In the NFL, you got these guys getting paid millions of dollars. You have a completely different relationship with your coach in the NFL. In college, your coach makes or breaks you. In the NFL, the coach is your friend. In college, wins and losses can change people quickly. Georgia was the 1 seed all year. They have not had to change at all this entire year. They thought they were the best. They were the best. And then Bama, team that's just as good as them, came and reminded them that they need to be adapting and evolving and watching film and doing things to help get them better. And I think that's what Bama punched them in the mouth, and that's the best thing that could have happened for Georgia. That's why I think they're 7.5-point favorites against Michigan. That's a really hard game for me to pick. Michigan's defense has gotten a hell of a lot better from the beginning of the Ohio State game on. They have 2 players on their defense combined have a total of 25 sacks. It's ridiculous. And Georgia's defense is great too. It's going to be a back-and-forth football game. I don't want to pick that one quite yet because it's so far out. Bama, Cincinnati. People are hating on this game a little bit. I think it's going to be a really good game. Cincinnati came within a field goal of Georgia last year and beat Indiana and Notre Dame on the road this year. I really think Cincinnati could give Bama a run for their money. I'm not saying they're going to win that, but the line is 13.5 on this game. Cincinnati has arguably the best corners in college football, and defense as a whole for Cincinnati is just insanely good. I really think Cincinnati could cover the 13.5 and would be the best bet. That's the only bet I'd be comfortable making at this moment is Cincinnati covering the 13.5. I'm going to get more into college football playoffs as we start getting closer, and I'm going to bring on a couple other guys, of course, to talk with me about college football, just to get some deeper insight. But for now, be thinking about those picks. I sure will be. It's going to be a fun playoffs. I'm excited that a Power 5 team, non-Power 5 team, has finally gotten in. Cincinnati, I've been rooting for them for years to get in. Michigan being able to get in there, I'd love to see Michigan wins it. And wouldn't mind Bama or Georgia either. I like all the teams in there. It's going to be a good December 31st and a great national championship game, whoever makes it. Now, heading over to my spreads of the week. Last week, I was 4-1, did pretty solid. I've been on kind of a heater as of late. Went 5-0, 4-1, 4-1, 4-1. So hopefully I can get another good week here. First game I got for you guys, Giants at Chargers. This is the only big line I've got this week. Chargers minus 10.5. I'm taking the Chargers here. Giants, I just don't like them at all. They don't have a lot going for them this year, and I think a 10.5 will be good for the Chargers to cover. Basically covered that against the Bengals, so I think they got it there. Bills at Bucks, talked about this earlier. Bills +3. National media is absolutely shredding the Bills at the moment, and I think the chip on their shoulder is going to be a big thing. They're too good of a football team, and they might not beat the Bucks, but they're going to go in there and keep it close and cover that 3 points for me. Cowboys at football team. Now, this is the one I debate about a lot because it's in division game. I really, really want the football team to win this game. But on paper, looking at the stats, looking at how these teams play, I got to go Cowboys -4. Falcons at Panthers. Panthers are favored by 2.5. I like the Falcons here, +2.5. Panthers have not looked like the same team since they got Cam. They had that good week against Arizona, but since he's been starting, not playing good. They had that bye week. Maybe they can get it under control. But I like the Falcons to at least keep it close. And last game, Rams at Cardinals. Cardinals are favored by 2. At home, Rams have Van Jefferson trying to fit into the Robert Woods role. They're just not really hitting right now on offense, and I don't think they're going to be able to keep up with how high-powered of an offense the Arizona Cardinals are. So on that note, I gotta take Cardinals -2. So repeat of that, Chargers -10.5, Bills +3, Cowboys -4, Falcons +2.5, and Cardinals -2. And with that being said, that's all I'm gonna have for you guys this week. Be sure to head over to YouTube, Spotify, Instagram. Check us out at The Adam Eisen Show. And thank you all so much for watching this week's episode. And be sure to come back next week for Week 10 of The Adam Eisen Show.